Back to you, Mr. McFadden. The next question about something we've heard a lot in this campaign, and viewers have seen this in your political ads over and over and over again, all the time. And you have repeatedly criticized Senator Franken in your ads for voting with President Obama 97% of the time. And you've promised, if you're elected, if you vote 97% of the time with your party or any party, you won't run again.
Right.
What is the proper percentage? 97%, you say, what, 96%? Would you vote 95%? How about 90?
You know,
how about 88%? What's your percentage?
Pat, what I'll show is independent leadership, and this is the same.
What does that mean?
Well, I'll go out there and I won't be a rubber stamp for any president, and it's an issue because I believe that this president is leading us in the wrong direction. I believe, Pat, that most Minnesotans believe that, and Al Franken has been a rubber stamp for this president. He's voted with him 97% of the time. I haven't met anybody in Minnesota that agrees with another person 97% of the time. I don't even agree with my wife 97%.
Well, then what's your percentage? What's a good percentage?
You know,
95.
Well, Al Franken didn't think 87% was a good percentage when he used these same statistics against Norm Coleman in 2008. But Pat, let me tell you something. Let me share something with you. America's broken right now. Congress is not working. It's not working. It is hyper partisan, and I believe that right now that where we have, you mentioned there's 100 senators and 435 members in the House of Representatives. There's 535 people that have an opportunity to vote in America. Well, and what we've produced from Congress for a decade is horrendous.
I get what you're saying, and we're talking about percentages because you're using them over and over again, but that is apparently what everybody does. Take a look at some of these. Here's what the Democrats vote. Let me just show you this. Here is what Democrats vote with their parties. And it's above 90%. Amy Klobuchar's at 98%. You've got all the Democrats at 90% or more, except for Colin Peterson, but Republicans too. Look at the Republicans. And here are Republicans. Everyone is voting above 90%. That 97% number is meaningless.
No, it's not. It's not meaningless. It's one of the highest percentage voting with the president. He has supported the president every step of the way, and Minnesotans don't believe that this president is leading us in the right direction. But Pat, you raise a bigger issue, and that's the extreme partisanship that has taken place in Washington. We have seen this hyper-partisanship. Congress right now has a 9% approval rating, and I haven't met those 9 people yet. What they have produced as an institution for over a decade is horrendous. And what really bothers me as a dad, as a businessman, and as a coach is nobody takes responsibility for the outcomes. Let me finish.
We have to move on because let me ask Senator Franken. We actually broke down the votes amongst the U.S. Senate. And we actually found that there were no Republican senators that voted with their party 97% of the time, while 37 Democratic senators, including you, voted with the president 97% of the time in the 113th Congress. Doesn't that make your party, the Democratic Party, the party of gridlock?
No, because so many of these votes that are recorded, and this has been written about extensively and why this is so misleading, is that a lot of these are just nominations. You know, the HHS secretary, Sylvia Burwell, she passed 100 to nothing. A lot of these are just, that's what they score. They score the things that the president is for. Look, I try 100% of the time to vote for Minnesota. And I have worked across party lines. And I've done legislation with Lamar Alexander, a Republican of Tennessee. We just got it signed in July, the first reform of our workforce training system since 1998. We actually streamlined it, got rid of 15 different programs, but we're training people for jobs that exist. I work with Pat Roberts on making drugs safer. I work with Deb Fisher, Pat's from Kansas. Deb Fisher, a Republican from Nebraska, on
all right, you say
rural broadband.
And we get it. You say you're working across the aisle. He disagrees. But 97% indicates that you do support President Obama. Has he been doing a really good job, good enough? Do you support him 97% of the time?
Listen,
do you support President Obama's job in office, his approval?
I have voted in the interest of Minnesota. Now, on President Obama, I had high hopes when he came in. I've been disappointed. I've been disappointed in his inability to deal with this gridlock. But I've also been disappointed in the gridlock that's been created, especially by the Tea Party. Now,
let me talk about gridlock for a minute, because you made a comment, as made to Al Franken, that his party was the party of gridlock. The Republicans and the Democrats, my party has to take blame for this. I can tell you as an outsider, as a businessman who was taught to take responsibility for actions by my dad, what I don't understand is that Congress has been horrendous in terms of its outcomes for over a decade, but nobody takes responsibility. Republicans don't. We say it's not our fault. We don't control the presidency. The Democrats don't. They say, well, we can't work with the House. And I believe that Al Franken is one of the most partisan senators in the U.S. Senate by voting record.
Okay.
Political magazine.
If I am so partisan, why have Senator Roger Wicker, a Republican of Mississippi, worked on me to rein in the credit rating agencies on Wall Street?
Well,
look, there's a fundamental difference
between. Let's look at
between
actions versus words. Political magazine ranked you 100 out of 100.
Go
Thank you.
ahead, Senator.
Okay. I see common ground when I can. But I also stand my ground when they come after the middle class. And this is where Mr. McFadden and I fundamentally disagree. I think the economy works from the middle out. I want to work for the middle class and those aspiring to the middle class.
Can I talk about
hang on a second, because we have to move on here.
We're talking about partisanship.
I'm for raising the minimum wage.
Political magazine came out with a study. They ranked senators, Al, from 1 to 100 in terms of their ability to co-sponsor legislation across the aisle. You were ranked last place, 100 out of 100 senators. My dad always said, look at actions, not words.
Okay,
you give
let
a couple
me say
examples.
something about that statistic. According to that statistic, Ted Cruz is one of the most bipartisan members of the Senate.
That's a different.
Ted Cruz.
This is Political magazine.
Ted Cruz voted with his party 87% of the time.
You're using
Ted
a different
Cruz.
I've got Ted Cruz's
No, but it
voting
says
record
he's
right
one
here.
of the most bipartisan members. He's the guy who shut the government down.
If you look at voting, there's a bell curve, and Al, you are an outlier.
Well,
you are.
But Mr. McFadden, when President Obama
metric.
was elected,
Yes.
the first thing we heard from the Republican minority leader, Mitch McConnell, was that they're going to do everything they can to not allow a second term and to stop everything he did in office. Do you agree with that?
I don't agree with that, and I'll give you a straight.
Will you support him if Republicans are elected?
I just gave you a very straight answer. As unlike Al Franken, who has continued to divert from answering questions that you've asked him, I believe that that's wrong. I think Washington is so broken and so hyper-partisan, and nothing's getting done, and nobody takes responsibility for these outcomes. This is America. We signed up for representative democracy over 200 years ago, which by definition, Pat, means that we'll always have friction. We'll never have one-party rule. We have to work together to get things done. And under any measurement, what has been produced by Congress over the last decade is horrendous. And you've been a part of that, Al, and you need to take responsibility for that.
I wish we could keep going on this. We have to move on to the next segment, so we will be right back. Please join us.